Welcome to Unapologetically You, where we discuss all things health and wellness. We use science backed tools that support you and your family, and hopefully thought provoking conversations that get you motivated to look after yourself and the ones you love. Today's podcast will bring in the hot topic of the day, where we will focus on health targets and do they work. But before we begin, thank you for listening in, for finding us, and more importantly, for showing up for yourself. If you'd like to support what we're doing, head over to our Patreon page. You can support us for the price of a small cup of coffee. But without further ado, I want to welcome in my gorgeous co-host, Kelly.
Hello.
Hi, Gal.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. I'm only giggling
Yeah,
because, well,
I know.
that took me a while to do
It
that
did.
intro. For those of you want to listen, it's the bloopers. I'm going to put them in. Maybe I'll put them in on the Patreon page. Oh my gosh, that was a
Yeah, not
struggle
everyone
this
needs to see
morning.
it. No, but it wasn't normally you. You normally get through it very easily.
I know it's because I'm like boop 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 boop. I don't know what's going on with me. Maybe it's just too much coffee, too quickly. Anyway, you've been super busy, but I want to hear about your biggest win this week.
It's only Tuesday.
Well, this
Um,
past week, from Tuesday to Tuesday.
I got complimented on a guacamole that I made, like serious accolades over this guacamole. That felt good. Um, what else have I had a big win? The weather's been great. Family, I've seen lots of family. It's just been a lovely time.
Oh, I love that. That is a big
Mm,
win. I
it
love when you
is. It is.
I love when you spend time with family and the people you love. Because the thing is, a lot of times, a lot of people say, oh, there's a lot of pressure to be with family, and there's a lot, within there's a lot riding on the relationship, right? There's a lot of history, there's a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
So it's good that you don't necessarily have that, especially with the people that you've been hanging out with, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I don't feel obliged or anything like that. It's uh family's great.
I
That's my
agree.
experience.
Okay,
Yeah.
so apart from the guacamole, what made you smile?
Apart from the guacamole. Uh Good surfing conditions, great weather. Um let's call it
That's
great
good.
weather, good surfing conditions. Yep.
That's good. That's a good one. And okay,
Okay.
so what's your intention for this coming week?
To do some Tulsi work and set boundaries and sit with them, because I know just because I have been busy
Yeah.
with work and setting up a new business, and I do need some time out.
Good. I love that. Well, it's so
Mm,
funny because I'm going to interject with my biggest win is
good
I
girl.
came
Yes.
back from my break and I did my
Yes.
social media, put a pin in it, didn't look at social media for like a week or so. And then I'm kind of like slowly integrating myself back into the norm, the day to day.
It needs to be slow.
It does. And the funny thing is
Mm,
because we've had a bank holiday, we've had Easter. I feel like people who own their business don't necessarily adhere to those bank holidays and long weekends because it's a
I
corporate
do.
thing, right? And for
Mm,
me, like if I need to work, if I need to coach, I'm going to do it. And I have. But then I'm slowly integrating myself back in by going, I don't need to go 1,000 miles an hour right now. But I think that's my biggest win. I feel like the slow integration, the appreciating every day, the spending time with family has definitely been my biggest win because I could have easily gone, right, hit the ground running, let's go. And I'm like, no, I almost need to digest everything that has happened on this retreat. And it was like
mm.
incredible. And can I squeeze in? That's what made me smile. Like you were talking offline about, frolicking in the waves and just kind of like being there for hours.
Yeah.
I haven't laughed that much or been joyous or playful or silly in such a long time. Like it really brought out, we had this podcast about divine feminine nature, didn't we? About nurturing, about playfulness, about joyfulness. And I brought that energy out because it was almost like in an environment I could bring it out in. And they were very much like-minded, powerful, incredible women who are almost seeking the same thing, but in different ways, if that made sense. So I feel like that's definitely something that made me smile. But my intention, I don't know what my intention is this week.
Reintegrate into society.
I know. Do I have to?
No, you don't have to. You can live in Costa Rica forever.
I did look into it actually. I was like, can I live
Did
there
you?
for 6 months? Yes.
Doesn't surprise me. I do the same thing. Every time I go somewhere, we could live here. What's the real estate like?
No, we did look at Airbnbs. We were like, it's better to live 6 months because they have torrential downpour like during the winter so that you can't obviously live there. And I also met a person who lives in the UK and Costa Rica. So I was like, oh, brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where in the UK do they live?
In London.
Okay. And then Costa Rica, where you were?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
it was
doable.
such a gorgeous place. Like I'd never been to that part of the world. And it was just, oh, it was just heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Nice.
does exist on this world. It does exist.
Yeah. Well, I have been following the Instagram posts and I love the way you wrote underneath each one. The goal was, the intention was to tune the world out and to tune into yourself. How
Yeah.
did that go?
So well. So wow.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that
That's the
I
place to
just
do it.
went off social media and I carried my phone with me to take photographs, but no word of a lie, I barely took any photographs. I mean, some of those photos,
That's right.
like most of them were from me, the ones I wanted to post, but I do clearly say these weren't my photos on one of the
Okay.
posts. I think I did it on my Tulsi.coach Instagram because I'm like, I just wanted to be in it. You know how sometimes you're so busy in your phone, like when people go to concerts and
Absolutely.
they're so
Yeah.
busy on their phone, but it's like, when are you going to look at those videos again? Be in the moment, like, and that's what I wanted to try and absorb. If I was watching the sunsets every evening, we were practicing yoga, and obviously dinner was amazing because they were like, no phones at the table. I was like, I love that. And it was so funny as well because the yoga instructor who I'd followed since 2018, she was like, if you see somebody in a spot, like maybe journaling or, just being by themselves, leave them be. And she was like, respect their space because they're here for their journey too. And I was like, I love that. And it's so good that she set that out from the offset because it's like, her name's Ali Van Fossen. And if anybody wants to follow her, she's found on YouTube. And yeah, the studio she's created, the way she coaches yoga just really resonates with me. And she was really good at like setting boundaries and going, look, you're here for you, but also respect others and how they're going through their own adventure. And I completely resonated with that, which was great.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So does she hold it every year?
No, every 2
Oh, okay.
years.
Every 2 years.
Yeah. So
Okay.
she
Well,
may do
maybe
one.
we can get a group together.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. But we need to do our own little workshop too, right? Let's do it in
Yeah,
Costa
we've always
Rica.
talked about that. We've often talked about that.
We
Yeah.
have. Okay, so hot topic of the day. Let's dive straight in. Okay, so I'm gonna name a few topics for you guys. Those who are listening, you probably have heard this, especially if you're UK resident. I'm focusing on UK because there's so many different guidelines. There's one in America, there's ones in Australia, wherever, right? So we're going to focus on the UK. You may or may not have heard of these. They are quite popular. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Kelly on the spot. because I love doing these things. And her face,
I know.
her face is like, okay.
I know. Here we go.
You always do fab though, and I never really put you on the spot to like let you fall in the water, surely. I
Well,
don't.
we're about to find
Well, you'll
out.
sink or swim, right?
Yeah, right, right.
So you're gonna go through these like big topics, and then we're gonna try and debunk them. Okay, so I'm gonna put some
Okay.
science in because I did my little research and I thought it was quite interesting. And I was reading this magazine on the plane actually. So I took Science Focus magazine that's published in the UK. I don't know whether it's published worldwide, and that's probably why they had a lot of UK based topics.
Okay.
So have you heard, Kelly, of so the UK recommends doing 150 minutes of exercise per week. What's your
Yeah, pretty
recommendation?
standard.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I think that totally is determined by your goal, by your current ability,
Yeah.
by the kind of sport you do. The oh, no, it's not it should not be a generic number.
I completely agree. So the government and the health industry will say do 150 minutes per week. However, apparently these guidelines, if you do those guidelines, so if you do 150 minutes per week, you are 11 to 15% less likely to die of anything compared to people who do nothing. So,
compared to people who do nothing, doing 150 minutes of anything is good.
yeah, but that's only 11
right?
to 15% you're less likely to die. So it's a small percentage though, isn't it? And I'm going to try and pronounce this and not butcher it, but
Okay.
Dr. Kula Asimagopoulou, she says that the targets don't provide specificity, which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
When it comes to vigorous, what is vigorous? What is moderate? Our perspectives are different. So, okay, so science is strong for vigorous activity, right? So if you do vigorous activity, you're going to have a higher heart rate. You're going to get fitter. So to work harder, you're going to get fitter, basically. But I feel like it's I don't think that 150 minutes is a very good outline for people, for general populations.
Not if you don't understand intensities. So if you do 150 minutes at a high heart rate, you're not going to recover enough to get the benefit out of doing it for the second hour, or if you do half an hour a day, which is 5 half hours, you're not going to recover enough to want to do it again the next day. You're just going to dig yourself into a hole.
100%.
And then if you just walk,
No, go.
I was just going to say, if you only walked every day, then there's no progression. Your heart rate shouldn't be high. It should not be in a high intensity heart rate when you walk. And if it is, then perhaps see a doctor. And then you need that moderate intensity, that stimulating heart rate, which is, it's hard to be generic because it's so different for everyone, but say 130 to 150 beats per minute. And then high intensity would be 150 beats above, but for me, it's more like 161 beats and above would be my high intensity. And then my low intensity is about 110 to 116 usually. But see, that depends on your metrics, your personal metrics, right? Your personal fitness metrics.
Agree. And I just want to jump on the back of what you were saying, because for me in particular, like being an active coach in the gym and doing all these different things, you've got incidental activity. So we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but when you've got incidental activity, it's low to moderate activity, right? And so when you're purposely doing, because I don't think the 150 minutes includes incidental activity. I think it's specific. You need to do moderate, vigorous activity, which means you're going to have to get on a bike or go swimming or do something or weight training or whatever it is. Weight training doesn't peak that heart rate very high. I've noticed in my training, but it's fantastic for fitness. So I can do Olympic lifting and it will peak because I'm in that high threshold, but I'm not in there very long. Um, so it's just funny because now that my whole lifestyle has changed from more of an online coach, I purposely try and do more low to moderate exercise. And I purposely try and do 1 to 2 vigorous. But then, when you were talking about walking, it's so funny because I'll try and walk hills because that'll get my heart rate up to like 150, 160. And I'll purposely get my heart rate up because I feel like, especially for women, our agenda has changed. Like if you're reaching a certain age and you're getting into, or you're preparing for perimenopause and menopause, you need to do more strength training. You need to do more moderate, low intense, vigorous exercise. So it's almost like, how can you shift that mindset? Because sometimes, like we eat like we did 10 years ago, but our body's not the same. We train like we did 15 years ago, but our body's not the same. We can't keep doing this high intensity interval training. But like for you, Kelly, it works, right?
Yes, I enjoy doing that, but at the same time, I don't do it 5 times a week.
Yeah. You monitor your load and you go specific.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so another
yeah, go.
I'm gonna like jump on the back of this one because we literally just talked. Well, I just said about incidental activity, right?
Yep.
And this talks about 10,000 steps a day. Do you know where it came from? Do you know where that gimmick?
They plucked it out of a hat.
Funnily enough, and you're not going to be surprised when I say this gimmick was produced in 1964 during the Tokyo Olympics pedometer company. So,
someone had an agenda and were making money out of it. Shocking.
I know, right? But the thing that shocked me was the 1964. It's been a while.
Hasn't changed.
It's been around for a while. And then apparently they talk about that's not including incidental steps. That's including incidental steps. It's not purposeful 10K walking. Because if you 10K walked a day, that's a lot of walking. So this includes, like, I don't know, you walking to the kitchen or walking up to the stairs and walking around. Yeah. Some people need to top up that by going for an extra hour walk, right?
Yes.
But I remember having a pedometer on my phone, but then sometimes I'd like to walk without my phone. So I'm like, what am I actually monitoring? And the funny thing is you'll monitor it with a pedometer or your phone, but eventually that'll drop off. Like you're just going to lose interest in it. So what's the motivation behind it? So yeah, you've got a target. Yeah, you're trying to get 10,000. And just as you said, you need to then go to 11,000 and then 12,000. You can't just go 10,000 steps a day and that's it. Like vary the intensity, vary the duration. And apparently people with dogs, which you're probably not going to be surprised about, actually get more steps than people without dogs. But 6K, those people who are older, 6K is enough and it's associated with better health. But where do you stand with 10K? Like now that you know, it was a pure company gimmick.
Yeah. The fact that they're incidental steps, like you can do. I coach a lady with a bad back, and she said to me the other day, she does exercise with me, and it's very specific exercise for her back. But around the house, she'll do 18,000 steps a day. I was shocked. Well, how the heck do you do 18,000 steps a day? But that's what she said. She said minimum 12.
Wow.
And between 12 and 18,000 steps a day. It's a lot of steps.
How old is she?
She's 38.
Oh, so yeah, quite virile, active.
Well, she is active, but this is housework. This is looking after 2 children. This is, not, and I coach her twice a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not the kind of coaching. It's like you don't walk around far. Like you're doing
Yeah.
very specific back exercises,
Yeah.
or for her back. So yeah, she doesn't move much out of a gym space.
Mm.
So yeah, like some people can do a lot of steps and it doesn't do them any health benefits. And then there are people who can be a little bit more legitimate with how they spend those steps. It's like having $10,000, right? You can throw it everywhere and there's your 10,000 steps, or you can be very deliberate about how you spend that 10,000 steps and make them work for you. So I try to get people who are wanting to lose weight, if they do a gym workout, oh gosh, it gets so complicated, doesn't it, Tulsa? I don't know if we can just get people to understand, unless they're strength coaches themselves listening. But you would have a low resistance, like a recovery or a low heart rate exercise, a moderate and high intensity. And so if you do a high intensity exercise, get your heart rate up, and it won't necessarily be running, then I wouldn't say you have to do any extra steps sometimes, depending on the workout. And then if it's moderate, then maybe 7,000 extra steps,
Mm.
just, you know. But then if you don't do anything, then 10,000 steps. I'm happy for you to start with 10,000 steps, because if it's a number that works for you and you can get those 10,000 steps in, go for it. It's better than doing nothing.
Agree. And yeah, jumping on the back of your advice, I definitely think that if you are going to use a pedometer, if you are going to use a Fitness Pal app or whatever it is, and you want to log your steps because you do want to lose weight, or you are quite sedentary because of the shift in your lifestyle, I definitely recommend monitoring what it is now. And I've had people say to me, oh, they've only done like 400-500 steps in a day. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just start with 1,000 steps. Let's just start with 2,000 steps. There's no point going from 1,000 steps a day to 10,000, because that's a lot for your body. So just building up that tolerance, just as we were saying with a moderate to vigorous activity, like what are you doing? And people think, just going back to that one, people think they're doing vigorous activity, but if you're not monitoring it, how do you know? So it's almost like that 10,000 step is, you know full well it's a company trying to sell you something, and now you're just thinking what works for me and my body. Like the person you're coaching, she's not necessarily monitoring her steps, but she knows full well she's active, she knows she's constantly on the go. So
Yeah, true.
like you're being specific with her weight training, because you're just like, well, this is exactly what you need, because you're always doing low to moderate,
Yes.
well, not even moderate, it's just low
Not
activity,
even moderate.
not even moderate.
Just
Yeah.
moving. Just
Yeah.
moving. Yeah.
Yeah, agree. Okay, so the next one. Have you heard of eating 5 portions of fruit and veg a day? Because that's what we have in the UK.
Mhm.
Yeah, do you guys have
Five
it?
a day. Yeah,
5 a day?
we
Okay,
do.
so you're not going to be surprised about this. It started out as a health marketing slogan. In the UK, apparently, we don't count starchy, rich carb potatoes, or yams, as Americans call them. But in Australia, spuds are allowed. So, because they have a high level of vitamin C. And I just want to add in, a lot of people think that they need to go out and buy like very fresh fruit and veg, but we don't realize how long it's been since the item has been picked to when it's become in your fridge, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
the amount of
Right.
time between when it has been, picked on a farm to when it is in your fridge, the length of time is diabolical. It's shocking. But that's not to discount frozen fruit and veg. And this is what I got my brother to do, because he wasn't really eating that much fruit. So I was like, okay, we'll just get frozen fruit, because it's flash frozen, like pretty much straight after it's been picked. You're compacting the nutrients, the minerals, all those good antioxidants pretty much straight away. And I highly recommend berries. What about you, Cal?
Yeah, I'm a big berry eater. We get a lot of fresh fruit here. We go to the markets and they are supposedly picked that morning. They do look like they are, and certainly you'll bring them home and they'll last in the fridge for 2 weeks. So I believe they are way fresher than you would buy at our supermarket, which is Woolworths or Coles. Yeah, flash frozen vegetables, snap frozen, we call them here, are great. And just we have been warned here as to where those vegetables came from because of the quality of the water and the soil that they've been grown in. And that is more like the Indonesian countries where a lot of the rivers and streams that fertilize these are contaminated with human waste.
Yeah.
So that was a thing to look at where they come from, these snap frozen vegetables. But yes, doesn't surprise me that it was another probably incentive, and I'm also glad that Australia counts potatoes. Yes.
Okay, so here's another question. Forget about the slogan, forget about the marketing, like hoo-ha. Today, because you are ending your day. We're in the UK, we're just starting it, so I haven't eaten yet. But
Okay.
Can you count live for us how many fruits and vegetables have you consumed today? How many?
Okay. I had blueberries and raspberries with my breakfast. I've had a banana. I had lunch. I had a kale salad. It had kale, it had spinach, it had cabbage. I shredded some carrots in it and chopped up some red onion. There would have been potatoes. I cooked a chili for dinner. I haven't eaten it yet though, but it is cooked. So there's potatoes, there's beans, there's capsicum.
Remind me what capsicum is.
You might call it peppers.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's 11 so far, right?
Yep.
11.
Yep.
That's insane.
11.
And that's amazing. And the fact that I think that you're a brilliant example because, yeah, if you want to look like Kelly, do as she does. She's got an amazing but that's a really good point because it's counting everything. It's like how much protein have you got on your plate? How much carbohydrates have you got on your plate? How much vegetables have you got in plate? So I think it was something like I can't remember now. I think they said like 3/4 of your plate or over a third should be vegetables or fruits or something.
Yes.
There's a portion for protein and then there's obviously a portion for carbohydrates, but it needs to be a balanced meal. So if you're looking at the 5 recommendation, I didn't even look at the statistics about how many people don't adhere to the 5 a day. And like I can count days that I haven't reached 5. So for me,
for sure,
I need to like you need to have the awareness, right? So how much are you cutting out of these? How much are you cutting out of your diet and how much are you purposefully included? Because for you, even if you like, I made an amazing salad, but I put like cabbage in it, I put carrots in it, we put broccoli in it. I dressed it with an orange and like there was avocado in it. And if you look at the salad, it was so nutrient dense. Like we need fiber, we need the vitamins, we need the minerals. Put all those things into your diet rather than getting a supplement. So I think that if you can like debunk, we've already debunked, there is no 5 a day. Go as many as possible, right? If you're going to eat as much as possible, because apparently, I do have a statistic. 70 to 80% of adults and children, so 70% of adults, 80% of children do not meet the recommended allowance of 5 a day.
That's a lot of not.
That is a lot.
But is it half a cup is half a cup one serving? I think this is how it is in Australia. Half a cup is one serving and you need 5 servings a day.
I do it with the palm of my hand because I'm really lucky. My palms are really like big, so I can get away with a bigger portion. My hand's pretty big. It's as big as my face. Oh my gosh, this is the
Yeah,
playful
get to
side
eat
coming
more.
out in me. Okay,
Yeah, I
if you
got
watch
big
it on
hands.
YouTube, you can see the size of my hand.
It is quite big.
It is quite big.
Yeah, big palm,
Yeah.
long
I've
fingers.
got,
Yeah,
piano hands, even though I don't play the piano. I could be
play the
amazing.
piano. Yeah. If I played, I'd be great.
So humble, so humble. Um, so basically, I always do the size of my palm of like, when they say the amount of cheese they say is like a matchbox size, I do not adhere to that, especially with cheese.
Oh, that is so wrong. Cheese is
That
too
is so
good. But I
wrong.
don't have that every day. I wouldn't have
Same,
cheese every day.
same. And I'm very purposeful about when I have cheese. And I think that being
Mm.
the yoga retreat, we had three. Oh my goodness. I don't even eat this much, but it was three fresh vegan meals every day. And they were all packed full of nutrients, fruit, vegetables. It was so delicious. And sometimes the quantities were so much because you really had to listen to your body. Like you're respecting your body by doing yoga. You're respecting your body by waking up in the morning, tuning into meditation. Respect your body with how you eat. So we're not saying, cut out the cakes and the croissants and all these goodies and these French fries, but we're saying it within moderation, have those French fries, but majority of it add in the fruit and veg. So if you're looking to lose weight, like start with those moderate steps, start with those intentional steps, start with, just shifting the diet ever so slightly. So you're going to feel good in your body. That's
You
probably,
feel so much better.
you do, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so the next one
Mm-hmm.
is, have you heard of eight? You should have 8 glasses of water a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's about 1.2 liters of fluid. Now, okay, so this had come from Harvard Medical School. They recommended 4 to 6 cups of water a day. 2 liters, though, had won the internet because it's the most shared, it's the most well-known advice. Fitness instructors are like harping on about it. The funny thing is I remember another coach saying the same thing. She was like, whenever I have a cup of coffee, I double the water intake. So she'll have 1 cup of coffee, but she'll have maybe 2 to 3 glasses of water on top of that because she was like, oh, that's the fluid loss. However, this is the good thing about this article. Dr. Stuart Galloway, he had a study and he found that a range of drinks, including diuretics, lager, instant coffee, didn't stimulate fluid loss than water in normal quantities.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that really interesting. So it's like people will have in their brain, because of clever marketing and branding, drink 2 liters of water a day. Now all the fitness people are trending on this, right? So then that's led into that mass market of this is what you need to do. And then
Mm.
a coach is, for all well good and purposes, she's probably said, okay, well now we need to supplement that fluid loss, but you're not losing fluid. Like I think people need to understand you're getting fluid from your porridge, you're getting fluid from like your juices, your vegetables, whatever you're
Mm-hmm.
having, your teas, your coffees, your milks, whatever you're having, those are included in your fluid intake. But what they did say is instead of measuring your water glasses, because everybody's water glasses are different. Like imagine if I had like
Mm.
2 or 3, like 4 cups of this, like a normal cup would be half of it, surely. I don't know. So basically,
Mm.
again,
I think so.
it depends.
Yeah.
Um, People have different bodies, they have different activity levels, they have different diets, they live in different environments. So who's to
Mm-hmm.
say the 2 liters or the 8 glasses of water are accurate? So they said this, so they suggested the urine color is a good gauge.
Mm-hmm.
Are you peeing 4 to 6 times a day? I definitely am peeing a lot because I drink a lot of water. But what about you?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
It depends on the weather for me and my activity. So I will find that I will just sometimes I just sip at water. I have a bottle and I'll just sip at it. And other times I will fill that up and just drink it all at once. 750 mil,
Okay, so for
800
example,
mil,
if you're
600 mil.
drinking 750 mils in one go,
Hmm.
are you already dehydrated and are you losing minerals and or what do they call it?
Mm.
I can't remember what you call it now. My brain's gone to mush.
Hmm. Like
Salts.
when you overdrink water.
Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
flushing out your
Yeah.
system by over
Yeah.
drinking that much in one go.
I possibly am. I think living in the warmer climate makes a difference for me. I would not have done that unless I'd had a workout um back in the Blue Mountains. But up here, yeah, like yeah, I get way more thirsty. And because a lot of the time when we're active, we're out on the water and you don't have a drink bottle on a surfboard, right? So when I do get the opportunity for a drink, I drink. I drink
Mm.
a big amount of water. Um,
Pee in the ocean.
but sorry, drink the ocean water. I
No, I
probably
was gonna
do
say,
guzzle some of it.
but there's a high content of salt, right? So
Yes,
that's going to
yeah,
make you
it's not.
thirsty as well. So you're in the water, you don't know how much activity you're doing, you're not really measuring your sweat rate.
No, and you do
Out
get
there.
hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're sweating through the water because you don't actually realize how much energy and effort you're doing. But I kind of get that.
Mm.
But yeah, what were you saying about, being out on the water?
Mm. Just you do get hot. You get very hot and you get thirsty.
Mm,
So when I come back and I don't take water down there, so it's not as though it's sitting on the beach waiting for me. I have to come home
yeah. So maybe
to
that
drink
could
it,
be a
and so
shift.
then I'll drink.
Maybe have the water bottle as soon as you leave, because then by the time I know it's not very far, but by the time you're walking, you're then
Mm.
replenishing yourself rather than
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So we're all
yeah,
looking
and
after
drinking
Kelly
slowly.
here. Okay. How are you with alcohol? Do you know what the recommended units of alcohol are per week?
No,
Recommend
what are they?
14 units of alcohol per week. Okay, so that's UK says no more than 14 units of alcohol a week spread across 3+ days. So you can't be like, I'm going to have my 14 units a week,
Okay, yeah, no,
right? So
binging.
it does say, yeah, over 3 days. But then they said, so this person, Gilmore, that I mentioned earlier, the brilliant line of this is when Gilmore compares alcohol to smoking. So I found this really interesting. I wanted to share this with you. It says that drinking is a social thing, right? It's
Hmm.
during celebrations, but you wouldn't ever hear somebody say, "Oh, someone so and so is a really good smoker." Heroic image with drinking, right? It's like,
Right,
oh, so and so
yeah,
handles
interesting.
alcohol, or like me, so and so such a lightweight, right? But it's like this. They glorify people who can handle their alcohol, and I'm just like, wait a second.
Yeah,
I didn't drink that
yeah.
much on the retreat, but I was intentional. I did have one or two drinks. But what are we putting into our body, right? Because it's a toxin, because it's empty calories, it's
Hmm.
sugar that we're putting into our body.
Hmm.
If you enjoy alcohol, and obviously if you enjoy the benefits of red wine and things like that, be intentional when it comes to lowering your alcohol levels. This is what Gilmore says, that many people don't know that alcohol is linked to 7 common cancers, including breast and colon cancer. And I remember
Mm.
I read a statistic a while back. I don't know where this is from, so take this with a bucket of salt. But 80% of cancers are influenced by your diet, your environment, everything in what you're doing. So you can eliminate 80% of cancers if you looked after yourself, if you walked well, if you ate well, if you probably didn't live in a polluted area. It's all of these things that are preventable. But what is
Hmm.
what is your take about alcohol? Are you a big drinker? I don't think you are, but you enjoy a drink now and then, right?
I don't like alcohol. I haven't found an alcoholic drink I enjoy. I
Really?
know we had, yeah, when we were in Melbourne, what did we have? Was it a French martini or something? French something?
Yes, you're the one who recommended that one. That's why I thought you like enjoy
Yeah,
it all now and then.
yeah. Like, to be social, I'll have one or I'll sip at one, but you know how smashed I was after one of those
We were
things.
both
Do
the
you
same.
remember?
That's
We were
hilarious.
both smashed. Yeah, no, look, without going too deeply into what, I'll tell you what, my grandfather was an alcoholic
Yeah.
and it affected the family greatly. So I never wanted to drink. And then when I did start sipping something in late into my 20s, maybe even early 30s, I didn't like it. So I haven't found an alcoholic drink that I really enjoy.
Okay.
Um, so no, no,
So you
not a
were
wine drinker,
teetotal
nothing.
most of your like young adult life. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so then you're only drinking because other people are drinking, or there's a celebration or something like that?
If there's a celebration, I am not influenced to drink just because everyone else is. I just say, don't waste it on me because I'd so much rather have a glass of nice water with a lime squeeze into it. I really
Mm.
would.
Soda water with lime. That's me.
That's
Yeah,
me.
I kind of
Yeah.
like I've changed my mind on alcohol. Like I never was a big drinker.
Hmm.
I did drink, I would get tipsy very, very easily. And I remember being
Hmm.
in Australia actually with my one of my friends, and she said, "Oh, we need to build up your tolerance levels." All that happened is I just got pissed very frequently, more often. So it didn't work. But
No.
now that I'm like, well, wait a second, I'm appreciating my body. I'm putting time, effort, and energy into my exercise, into my training, into my meditation, into
Yeah.
my yoga.
Don't need to
Do I
sabotage.
actually, not even that, not even self-sabotage. It's like, do I really want to put those toxins into my body? And like, we did enjoy a margarita because I did want a margarita when I was out there. You know, you're in the sun, you're with friends, but I was just like, I'm not bothered. And I was the same when I was 18. Like, I didn't really care because the UK levels of alcohol is you can drink when you're 18. I know it's
Hmm.
21
Same
in,
here.
okay, so it's 21
US,
in
it's
the US.
21. Yeah.
Obviously, we know that kids will find alcohol at some point and they have alcohol in parties. But I was 18 and I was like, I still wasn't bothered about drinking. I would go to clubs and I would drive purposely because I was like, I know how I would get home. It wouldn't cost me that much money. And also, I was more of a forward thinker of I want to buy a house, I want to save money.
Yeah.
That was my like goal. So
Yeah.
I was relentlessly pursuing that goal. um yeah, a lot of people describe me as like tunnel vision, so that's pretty much like when I was younger. So I'm just like, no, I don't need to drink. But obviously all my friends were drinking, but they would also smoke too. So I'm like, oh great, they've banned smoking indoors, but now I'm freaking outdoors, get freezing
Yeah.
my ass off.
Yes. Yep. It was awful. Yep.
Well, I didn't like that
Agree.
at all, but
No.
I'm very conscious about I don't have people who pressure me anymore because they know that I'm a give or take. I can either take it or not because it doesn't
Yep.
really impact my personality. I did drink a lot when I was going through a struggle. So that's quite telling of I needed alcohol to kind of hang around with a certain person. I needed alcohol to kind of like soften me and kind of like calm me. But those are the red flags and I was ignoring those.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think that being aware of why you're leaning on certain things. Is it a norm? Are you struggling in other areas of your life? Or do you just enjoy the tipple? But does the tipple come with, oh, it's every day? Like when I was struggling with work, I didn't even take my jacket off at one point. And this is me who doesn't drink that much alcohol. I would go home. I didn't take my jacket off. I poured myself a glass of wine because I knew I was struggling with work. But that was the way I was kind of like closing out my day. Like that was me just going,
Yeah.
okay, this is the end of my day. And I know a lot of people
Mm,
COVID were doing that, right?
yeah.
Because they were working at home. Like, how do I close bookend my day? Oh, well, have a glass of wine. But I think that people forget those early red flags within themselves, listening to themselves about what's going on, rather than going, oh, I'm going to go with food, or I'm going to overeat, or I'm going to have these sweet treats, or I'm going to have alcohol. So I think it's just this kind of evolved to
Yeah.
unit.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on swiftly to 2,000 calories a day. That's every.
Oh, yeah. That's not enough for a lot of people, is it? And it affects the way you nourish your body because you can have 2,000 calories in a burger and
Oh
a
my
drink of
gosh,
Coke.
yeah. Yeah.
So if you look at it that way and you have a burger and a drink of Coke and there's your 2,000 calories and you don't eat for the rest of the day, well, your body is definitely not nourished.
Yeah.
Um, and and you're probably not eliminating well. So, there's just, there's a real push for dropping calorie input and output for weight loss. And that's what it comes down to, right? Weight loss. It's not
Yeah.
a healthy, that 2,000 calories was not about being healthy. It was about dropping weight.
It
Is
was.
that right? Or where did
It
it come
must be.
from?
So basically, for those people who don't know, women are recommended to have 2,000 calories per day. Men are recommended to have 2,500 calories per day.
Hmm.
We tend to overview this and we forget that people need additional calories depending upon their age, their energy levels, their metabolism, whatever they're doing, especially if they're playing a sport, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
just there's no parameters for that. Like, I don't feel like um, that needs to be outlined, but apparently it does, and it has. So this person, Kevin Hall, he is a part of the US Department of Health and Human Services, found that eating ultra processed foods, just as you so rightly said, compared to unprocessed foods, leads to greater energy intake, leads to weight gain, despite having the same calories. So you're adding sugar, you fat, sodium, different types of fiber. So it's just like calories are not the same. And this is the other thing that I wanted to present was apples from the same tree can vary its sugar content by 10%, depending upon where
Mm-hmm.
it's grown and how much sunshine it had gotten. And again, it's going back to that, what are the cues? What are the red flags our body is giving with alcohol? It's the same with food. Why are you craving the ultra processed foods? There is something lacking in your diet. It could be magnesium, it could be potassium, it could be all these different things that your body is actually craving, but you're settling those cravings through those processed foods because it's so easily accessible. Like, do you cook a nice, nutritious, fresh salad meal, or do you go through a drive-through? And that's, I don't know, a conscious thinking that we need to basically focus on regarding our health. Like, be conscious about it.
Yeah, be aware. Be aware. Be mindful, I think. Just be mindful. Stop and think before you pop something in your mouth. Like, I actually ate a lot of Easter eggs over the break. And I was coaching via Zoom today. And while I was talking, there were two people who know each other in the room. And while they were talking, I popped an Easter egg in my mouth, little one. And they went, "What are you eating?" I went, "Like Easter egg, of course." And then we all talked about how many we'd eaten. I'd eaten more than any of them.
Wow.
Probably the same as both combined. That's not like me. But like I said, that tiredness, that,
Mhm.
just trying to prop yourself up, but it was mindless eating,
Yeah.
it was just there and I just popped it in my mouth and they went, "What are you eating?" I'm like, "I'm eating."
No.
Right. And I held it up and went, "Oh, well, an Easter egg, of course." But I didn't even realize that I'd peeled it and thrown it in my mouth.
And this is really important. So our last one, this really links
Mm-hmm.
well with 8 hours sleep of 8 hours asleep per night.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
First of all, 8 hours, really? Like 7 to 8 hours. But apparently it's the recommended 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night for the average adult. I'm a good
Mm-hmm.
sleeper most of the time, but I'll aim for about 8 hours for me. Sometimes I'll wake up earlier, but usually 8 hours is best for me. So I came back from
Mm-hmm.
holiday, right? And bearing in mind, we did have an activity filled holiday. Like, it wasn't just sitting by the pool. Like, even though we did sit by the pool on some days and just chill, I slept when I came back from traveling. I slept 12 hours, like, straight.
Yeah.
And I tried not to go to bed early. It was 8 p.m. And I was like, don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep. I laid on my bed and I'm just like, just like, I'm just going to close my eyes and just meditate or relax. And then I was falling asleep. And my dad actually came in because I'm staying at my parents' house, said, get in bed. And I was like, no, it's too early. But I slept probably from, I probably not including my nap, but 8 till 8 in the morning. And I was like, that's a long sleep. But then you're forgetting about how much travel. But
Yeah.
I love, you've mentioned this in a previous podcast. I love that you focus sleep and you prioritize sleep. What are your sleeping habits and how do you sleep? How do you track your sleep?
I just know what time I go to bed and how I get up. I don't have any I mean, the Garmin will track it. My Morpheus tracks it, but I don't live and die by those numbers. So I just know what time I go to sleep. I know what time I get up. Usually, if I set an alarm, it's for 6:30. So I try to get those good hours before midnight, um, to get a good sleep. But if I don't set an alarm and wake up, it is always before 6:30,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, your body clock just,
So
right?
yeah, it just knows to wake up, but it wants to wake up. I wake up excited. I love the morning. I love a new day. So I wake up excited, but um, yeah, okay. So I would go to bed at 10 o'clock. Yeah. So 8.5 hours if I go to sleep straight away. Usually I do.
Mm.
Um, 8.5 to 9 probably for me would be a good sleeping
Yeah.
pattern.
Yeah, same. I've been sleeping a
Yeah.
lot lately, but it just depends. It depends
Mm,
what your body needs, how your body is recovering, what type of training you've done, like mentally,
mm,
how much
mm,
exhaustion have you had, or stimulus have you had that you need that
mm,
sleep.
mm,
And
mm.
8 hours doesn't necessarily mean good quality of sleep. So the last few
It
nights I was
doesn't.
up at like stupid o'clock in the morning and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I was like, okay, let me just try and meditate. But it still took me an hour or so to get back to sleep. And you're going to have those occasions where I'm like, oh, it's been 8 hours, but it hasn't really been 8 hours. Um, for me, I try not to keep my phone in my bedroom. Definitely, it's get it out of the bedroom so I don't wake up watching it. I don't fall asleep watching it. Like I'm very sensitive to blue light. I don't have the blue light glasses. I'd rather just read a book or do something separate or meditate. I definitely know what my sleep is like if it gets interrupted and it's not fun. I don't mind not looking at my phone or any blue light an hour before and then waking up in the middle of the night. But I if I know purposely I've looked at my phone just before bed, then I'm like, I get really annoyed at myself. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Whereas if I naturally wake
Yeah.
up, I'm like, okay, well, this is it is whatever it is. Because I think I have that flexibility in the day anyway to then wake up
Yeah.
maybe a little bit later or shift my clients. Okay.
Yeah.
So our final little thing before we end. I love this one. Health motivational tip of the day. So I'm going to scoot in and go, even though there were a lot of myths that we talked about and we did debunked, if I were to pick one, and I actually do write more about this in my book, Happiness Within. So that has information of what I went through and how I overcame it. But it also includes various tools to support the readers with their health and wellness. But eating consciously has not come easy.
Mm,
For me, it's like, conscious about what, as you said earlier, what you put in your mouth, what drinks you have, what are you consuming. Just be conscious about what you're putting in your mouth. So yeah,
mm.
Kelly, passing the baton over to you. What's your health motivational tip of the day from all those like debunking ones?
Mindfulness. Just be mindful about what you're doing during the day, and eating and moving.
Yeah.
Just think, be mindful.
I
Like
love
me
that.
mindlessly eating chocolate Easter eggs. Wasn't even good chocolate. It
Oh
was just that
no.
mindlessness of eating. Yeah, it wasn't worth it.
Oh no.
So I so I'm going to say be mindful,
Yeah.
um, based on my own, um, yeah, being sorry, put that on. Yeah, being mindful about what you do during the day.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for taking time out. And thank you so much for our listeners. Thank you for listening to this Beat Debunking podcast on Unapologetically You. If you found it useful, comment below. share your thoughts with how you felt and what myths that you were aware of or what you weren't aware of, and which ones are you going to follow. If you found this interesting, please do share this with your family and friends. We would love for you to be a part of our Patreon community. The link can be found in the description box below. And if you're watching this on YouTube and seeing our pretty faces, hit the subscribe button.
Please subscribe.
Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the alerts and the latest podcast on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this new one, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cal. Bye.